Hello, I am a spinning grey cube, and I'd like to talk to you today about the People's Vote, which is a stupid name for the idea that the UK should have a second referendum on Brexit once we know what actual trade deal the EU will offer us after we have left. Should we have another referendum on exiting the EU? I think there are more than two answers to this question. But let's do the two easy ones first. The first is, you lost, get over it. Now, it's not without merit. It's pretty snappy. It does sound a bit like something you'd say after you won a game of Conkers, rather than, say, the most important political decision of a generation. It is a little ironic, considering that we had a referendum in 1973 that went the other way, but that was a long time ago. The opposing argument is, I lost, let's do it again until we get the right answer. And that's a pretty tough sell. That is a weak argument. That is about as weak as Boris Johnson's marriage vows. It's about as weak as the performance of the pound against the euro for the past 24 months. There are some other viewpoints though. One is, if you're 18 or 19, I was not able to vote last time. And another one is, now that I know more about the situation, I've changed my mind. And I think these are both far more defensible positions. But there is a different way of looking at it, and that is that the Brexiters themselves have changed their minds about what they were actually selling. Now, even though it doesn't seem very original to do so, we have to start here with 350 million quid a week to the NHS. That is a promise that went just straight out the window on the day after the vote. They changed their minds. That's all just a load of 350 million quid to the NHS, is what people will be shouting at their smell-o-vision equipped holoscopes in 2118 when they see a bullshitting politician, probably. Now that's what the official Vote Leave campaign wrote on the side of the bus, of course, only. If you actually look at the Vote Leave paperwork, it said we'd also spend that money on schools. Again, and then on universities also, we'd spend 350 million. Yeah. Because I presume they've done their maths, and that is how money works. They told us they would cut immigration, and then they changed their minds. It was about controlling immigration, not actually less foreign people. We can have a points-based immigration system so that we can demand that the people come here to pick our fruit and vegetables in the fields all have engineering degrees. They told us we would be better off. Nigel Farage recently went on TV dismissing economic concerns with the snappy soundbite, "What price freedom?" He has literally gone from "we won't have to pay anything at all" to "we will pay any price." And I don't remember the words "I will pay any price" being part of that referendum question. Jacob Rees-Mogg said on TV recently that it could take 50 years before we see any positive return from Brexit. Now, at least he's putting his money where his mouth is by having a shed load of children who can then enjoy the economic benefits when they're approaching retirement age. But for the rest of us, half the people old enough to vote in the referendum could be dead before they see any economic plus side, even by the judgment of the Conservative Party's most rabid Leave supporter. David Davis, Liam Fox, Michael Gove and Nigel Farage all told us in various words that negotiating a new deal with the EU would be easy, because we held all the cards. Now, I'm assuming they've changed their minds, because it does seem like a long time since any of them have repeated those claims. Now they're complaining that the EU is pushing its advantage too heavily in negotiations, so apparently they did have some of the cards after all. And it seems they are using them to push for the best deal for their member states, just as they did for us when we were a member state for 40 years. Here's, I think, quite a big one at the moment. They told us we could stay in the single market and the customs union. Boris Johnson specifically said this. They talked about the Swiss model, the Norway model, the Canada model. Nigel Farage did that. Now, the Norway and Canada models are explicitly on the table now as offers from the EU. And Theresa May has explicitly rejected them both because she says they do not sufficiently fulfil the remit given to her by the referendum. Now, whatever you think of those two offers, this is crap. These deals simply do not fulfil the necessary remit for her to keep the hard Brexit wing of her own party on side and keep her in power. Yet again, it's just internal Tory party bitching being put ahead of the best interests of this nation. Now, I know there are people who genuinely voted Remain, but who don't think we should have a second referendum, partly because they feel it would undermine democracy. But I think there is a reasonable argument to make that the Vote Leave campaign actually did more to undermine democracy, particularly since they were charged and prosecuted for undermining democracy and found guilty of undermining democracy. So, have the public changed their mind? Well, maybe not. Maybe what they wanted was, they wanted to be better off, they wanted more money spent on public services, on the NHS, on education, and they wanted reduced immigration. And maybe they still do want those things. Before the referendum, that's what Brexit was, and now it isn't. The day after the referendum, all the lead players from both sides of the debate suddenly didn't have a clue what Brexit was, as epitomised by Theresa May's gloriously idiotic catchphrase, "Brexit means Brexit." Now, 2 years later, they've decided. Nigel Farage has decided that Brexit means freedom at any price. Jacob Rees-Mogg has decided it means prosperity maybe in 50 years' time. Theresa May has decided that it means whatever it takes to keep her in power. Boris Johnson has decided it means whatever will remove Theresa May from power. Dominic Raab says it means that we'll do everything in our power to prevent food and medicine shortages, and David Davis, to be fair to him, has stuck to his principles and still doesn't have a clue. Yeah, so it's not about asking whether people have changed their minds. It is about the fact that we now actually know so much more about what the question means. So, support the people's vote. I mean, I do hate that name. I hate that name. But it does make sense because the government cannot make up their minds. We're heading for a no-deal Brexit by default. So yeah, maybe the people will have to make this decision when the government is too incompetent to do so. And if we vote Leave again, at least it will have been a better informed decision than it was last time. You'll be able to say, I knew my passport would take me an extra 45 minutes to enter the 27 nearest tourist destinations, but it was all worth the sacrifice, because now it's blue. You'll be able to say, I knew we had to give up access to the single market and the prosperity it has brought, but it was all worth the sacrifice, because now we have exactly the same amount of immigrants as before trying to steal my job, but now, because we have a points-based immigration system, they're all better qualified than I am. So yeah, if you're a Remainer or if you're a Leaver, support the people's vote, support a second EU referendum, because better informed democracy is better democracy. And like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to support me and have me make more stuff.